ASEAN is marking 50 years since the establishment of its foundational peace deal. That's the Treaty of Amity and Cooperation in Southeast Asia. CNA's Leong Wai Kit explains how the pact has kept the peace so far.
It's simple physics. Stand alone, and you can easily break. Band together, and you're stronger. That theory holds even in geopolitics. What's also important is the type of unity that binds these sticks. Is it ironclad? Is the unity flexible? Or is it too weak to hold everything in place?
50 years ago, ASEAN set out to apply those very principles to manage peace. It set up the Treaty of Amity and Cooperation in Southeast Asia. For short, it's known as TAC or TAC. In the last 5 decades, numerous countries across the world have been coming on board the treaty. That figure now stands at 58, representing some 30% of countries worldwide. In essence, these countries vow to mutually respect the pact's agreed principles, to respect the sovereignty and territorial integrity of all nations, to refrain from interference in each other's domestic affairs, to settle disputes by peaceful means, and to renounce the use of threat or force. TAC is legally binding, and it's been effective to a large extent.
I think if you were to look at the rest of the world after the Second World War and after the Cold War, there has never been a war between ASEAN states, of course, prior to the conflict that erupted between Thailand and Cambodia. The recent conflict involving Thailand and Cambodia is a classic example of how the TAC has not worked out.
I think TAC will still remain relevant because this is the only code of conduct that we have that governs interstate relations. I think there should be some clearer guidance on how the High Council can be triggered, what its mandate would be, and how recommendations are being communicated.
But there's a common and long-standing concern that TAC lacks teeth when it comes to enforcement.
These are the laws that requires political commitment, and because these are intergovernmental cooperation and not supranational cooperation, and because there are no supranational authority to govern all these laws, the likelihood of compliance will really depend on each country's political commitment.
That concern is amplified as the global order becomes more and more unpredictable, from rapid swings in tariff policy to US President Donald Trump's recent unilateral actions against Venezuela and his ongoing threats to annex Greenland. The use of so-called grey zone tactics is also on the rise, including on the maritime front. Operations that are aggressive but fall short of an act of war. With these challenges surfacing, will TAC be able to stay afloat?
These actions may not look like some classic armed conflict, but they can directly challenge the TAC principles of the non-use of force and also, the mutual respect. So I think another challenge is really in today's world is really the internal division within ASEAN itself, as we saw in many scenarios.
We can look forward to it as a stabilizing baseline of how states are expected to conduct themselves. Given the absence of an enforcement mechanism, I think that's an expectation that should not be taken too much.
So, what safeguards does ASEAN have if TAC is mainly a diplomatic tool?
Within ASEAN itself, we do not have a military alliance between the 11 member states. But we have unilateral military groupings that can be deployed, in the event of of an adversary attack on one of the member states. And I think one of the most classic unilateral arrangements that we have today is, of course, the FPDA. That was formed between Singapore, Malaysia, the UK, Australia, and New Zealand. So I think in the face of the threats that we are facing today, multilateral groupings will elevate in terms of importance.
In solidarity.
As it marks TAC's 50th milestone this year, ASEAN will no doubt continue to expand its network of like-minded partners. But in an increasingly uncertain future, it will take much more effort, resources, and goodwill for the bloc to build on and secure peace for all. Leong Wai Kit, CNA.